But the common thing that mothers-in-law do is they externalize and they go to blame. And they say, I'm having these problems in our family now because of her. We never had these problems before. So she's the bad one. When you go to mom and you say, well, Terri doesn't want to come for Christmas this year, so we're not going to come. Immediately, you have split, you and your partner.
Yeah.
Instead of saying,
well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I just had a conversation with one of my friends, Dr. Tracy D. She has a brand new book out, which is right here, and it's called You, Your Husband, and His Mother. Create a healthy relationship with your mother-in-law and your spouse in 5 simple steps. And when I heard, we've been friends for a bunch of years, I think we met on Instagram, but when I heard that she was writing this book, I immediately called her. I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Because being a therapist for almost 30 years, 28 years, I cannot tell you how many clients I've had who've had difficult relationships with their mother-in-law. And that the boundary issues, there were so many conflicts, feeling torn, feeling like their partner wasn't standing up for them. So let me tell you a little bit about Tracy. She's a psychologist and a couples therapist. She's a relationship expert. She's been working with couples and clients for over 20 years. She has a PhD from the University of Ottawa. She owns a mental health clinic in Ottawa, Ontario. She was awarded the top 40 under 40, founder of Be Connected Digital. There's tons of stuff that she's done in her career. You might know her because she has a top-ranking podcast that I've been on a couple of times called Dear Dr. Tracy. You know, she's also out there in the media and Forbes and Time and Meta, NBC. You might know her though on Instagram, and she is Dr. Tracy D on there, and she talks a lot about couples work and relational work, and I think that you're going to find this conversation about boundaries and in-laws and your partner as fascinating as I did. So I hope you enjoy it. I am super pumped to welcome back to the Terri Cole Show, Dr. Tracy. Today we are talking about you, your husband, and his mother. I mean, not specifically you, but we're talking about your new book. So welcome back.
oh, Terri, thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. And it's such a gift to get to sit with you. I just love our conversations.
Me too, on and offline. So I've been so excited from the moment you told me you were writing this book. I couldn't stop thinking about how much we need this book. And I know that you've been having lots of meetings. So the book came out 2 days ago. So now it's in the hands of all the people, but I know you've been having lots of conversations about it. So let's start with, when I was introducing you to the audience, I was talking about your career and couples therapy and all the things that you do and have done. But I want to talk a little bit about this particular book. Like, what inspired you to write You, Your Husband, and His Mother?
This is such a good question because a lot of people come to me and say, is this really a problem? Why didn't you write it for her mother? What about that problem? And my first response is the system in the book is going to help you with any extended family member. That I built that system for this. But the reality here is that for nearly 20 years, I've either been doing research or clinical work with couples and individuals who all come to me saying, we want to be on the same team. We want to feel like we're on the same page and solve our problems together and improve our communication. And one of those top issues is around this desire to have healthy, extended family relationships. And yet we do not have a manual for this. And we struggle with multiple dynamics, with family systems, with communication in our marriages, with our own stuff that we bring to the table. And so this resource is really to support couples and women to do something different, to find their own agency and power and choice. And Terri, I've seen couples go through this and they build these better relationships and the relationships that they want. And it's incredible to see that.
Okay, so you did an online poll from your community, and 85% of the women that you surveyed said that they have conflict with their partner about their mother-in-law. So, when I did couples work early on in my career as a therapist, My theory, and I don't know if this is, just my theory, but what I could see is that when there was conflict between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, it really felt like there was unresolved business between the mother and son, right? Like we're creating this triangle to like manage this thing that's not working. So why do you think that so many mother and daughter-in-law relationships are rough?
Mm. I think there's multiple reasons. One of them
Mm-hmm.
being the role change. The reality is that the mother and son have a special bond. And I know that as a mother of a son. I know you know
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a special bond. And it comes with its own set of complexities where we know often that many boys are raised to be more avoidant, to not share feelings and needs, to pull up their socks and to
Mm-hmm.
brush off the emotions. And so what do? They avoid, they compartmentalize, they create distance, and they're not used to communicating boundaries and needs and expressing what they want to mom. And so now in comes this partner, and she's saying, you have to say this to your mom. You need to let mom know that she can't show up unannounced. You need to let mom know that she can't announce our pregnancy on Facebook to all of her friends. And then he has never done this with his mom, and it's
Mm-hmm.
confusing. And that's kind of the negative scenario, but in a different scenario, mom then also feels this role change. And
Yeah.
of course, at the heart of this is this deeper insecurity that many women don't know how to label. And so they don't know how to go to their son and say, what's my role here? Am I still important to you? Do you still want to come to our house for Thanksgiving? We don't give all the things that her family does, but do you still love and want to prioritize us?
Mm,
And so the mother son have to work through this, and oftentimes they don't.
right.
And what happens then is here comes this, I'm using quotations, outsider.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Terri, what do we do when we're feeling discomfort? One, we internalize and we say, oh, it's about me. I'm bad. I'm not enough. And we go to this place of shame. But the
Mm-hmm.
common thing that mothers in law do is they externalize and they
Mm,
go to blame. And they say, I'm having these problems in our family now because of her. We
yeah.
never had these problems before.
Right. And you're like, right, you didn't, but the situation has now changed. So
Yes.
for what advice would you have for the the mothers-in-law, the transition, right, of when your adult son gets partnered with someone, right? There's you get the luck of the draw of how it's going to be, right? Some you
Yes.
hope it's going to be good. I have three sons. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, right? So it's like, what is the expectation,
Mhm.
or how can the mother of the grown son sort of appropriately approach this new dynamic?
One of the best things you can do to not get into that triangle, right? The title of my book is intentionally that triangle,
Mm-hmm.
is to always help them focus on the we and the unit of their connection,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're in the early stages of dating, because you don't know, that could be a long term partner. And if
Mm-hmm.
you meddle in there and have negative comments and negative opinions, that's going to stay down the road. So that would be one
Right.
thing. Help them turn towards each other. But then the other piece is, hey, listen, we're all human. We get to have our own opinions and thoughts and desires and needs. And so we might actually not enjoy that person in all means. We might not like them with all of the things of who they are, but we can find one small thing that we connect with them. We can treat them with respect
Mm.
and kindness and care
Yeah.
and bring them into the family in a way that works for you. Because if you go to your son and say, her, like, but did you see what she did? And will her
Mm-hmm.
family? When you do that, you immediately divide them and insert yourself into that triangle.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, in a way, the son, is in this, double bind situation where you can't win for losing because either one person is going to be upset. So let's talk a little bit about what does the victim versus villain dynamic look like in the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship?
I've noticed that women get put into these two positions. So the victim position feels like everything is happening to me. The mother-in-law comes over, and you would connect with this in your book with Boundary Boss, with Too Much as well, where you become this super caregiver and a pleaser. And then suddenly one baby enters the family, two, maybe it's your second marriage and you're trying to create a nice structure in your home, and your mother-in-law shows up at your door. And then she tells you, but this is how we always do it in our family. And so you then feel like life is happening to you and you have no boundaries. That's the victim position. And then sometimes you then find your footing and you say, whoa, hang on. I've just done my amazing work with Terri. I realize that I have had no boundaries. And now I'm going to say, we don't want to do Thanksgiving this way anymore. We're going to do this. We can't wait for the next holiday. And then suddenly you're the villain. You're the bad one causing problems. And so I've noticed through my years of work that women end up bouncing through one or the other rather than finding this seat at the table for them. Becoming, and I love main character energy, just showing up and saying, this is who I am. I don't need to perfect. I don't need to please. I don't need to perform for other people. I know who I am. My boundaries are needed. And I can still be this kind and respected person. But the catch here, Terri, is that relationship dynamic. And that's why this is so tricky, because for many women, they go to their partner and they say, hey, this didn't feel good. Your mom XYZ. And then our partners, well-intentioned, are going to do what they do. They protect their family. They protect their memories and their childhoods. And they say, well, that's just mom. It's not that bad. Oh, Terri, you're being too sensitive. It's not a big deal. Yep. And so then that dismissiveness turns into her saying, well, let me give you 10 more examples. And he deflects and defends more.
Yep.
And then we're in this lawyer defense mode, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't, the thing is, it doesn't work. And again, the feeling unheard and unseen, and then feeling unchosen. Right? Because you're like, it becomes why are you siding with her? How do you think, though, generationally, because I was thinking about this from a macro, right, point of view, right? What we're doing now, what mothers are choosing now, today, is different than our parents' generation did. The choices are different. The world is so very different. So how does this impact this situation with mother, daughter-in-law, son?
There's this element here where mothers-in-law can really personalize this and take it to mean something about themselves. And again, we go back to that core of insecurity. If I'm seeing this other woman do it differently, does it mean that I did it wrong? Instead of sitting beside her and saying, tell me what matters about this. How are you choosing to do it? What's important about this? And so we do see this generational difference. And I think one of the biggest pieces we're seeing is how women today are saying, I know more, I know different, and I want different. And it's not to exclude family. It's not to abandon them. It's to say, how do we do this in a way that works for us? How do we not repeat these patterns of rigidity, control, denial, over responsibility for parents' emotions and feelings? And that just creates this tension if you're in these unhealthy family systems where then a parent or a mother-in-law says, well, that's how we always do it. And you need to get in line. And, that didn't happen. And that's not how I see it. And all of those patterns that start to show up.
It's interesting as being a mom of 3 sons who are all married. I thought being a therapist and being pretty healthy, I was like, I encourage the boys as soon as they were engaged, like, now this person is becoming your first family. We become your family, we are your family of origin, but all decisions are made with her as your top priority. And we understand that and we support that. Like, I want that. So even when it came to holidays and stuff, I was like, whoever has the youngest kid, we will travel to them. Like just trying to be like, what would be helpful? Not insisting when they had babies, not insisting to be there on the day. Again, being a mother of sons is different than being a mother of daughters. Like I do believe that way, that it's a different
Mm-hmm.
experience because I knew they were probably going to want their people there. I have three sisters. I know what it is to be a daughter, right? I know the priority that is. And yet, in one respect, I feel like my being very open, sort of, I didn't establish this, like, it's got to be like this. You know what I mean? Partly because I didn't think that was a healthy way to be, and it's not really my personality.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, in some respects, maybe I've lost something because a lot of those family situations that would have been either aren't, right? Or we do it later. But I feel like in some respects, finding the happy medium of how to be healthy and respect the autonomy of my grown sons' marriages and their families. And listen, now they all have, my oldest grandson is 16, I mean 17 now. Like, so, we've been dealing with this stuff for a long time. And it's not like there's anything wrong. There's not. But it's all about negotiating, I think. So how do you suggest for the mothers of the sons to sort of, how do we go about this in a healthy
Mm-hmm.
way? Because we're trying to get away from the old things, and I knew what wouldn't work, to be like, this is how it's going to be. This is how we always do Christmas. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
they're going to be coming up with new traditions. They're creating a new family, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to be in there, the OGs, but it's not the same. So what do you find in your practice? Do you find that people come up against this as well, like trying to figure out how much do I
Oh, yeah.
assert and how little do I assert, and then how to deal with what's left, sort of?
And I think there's just this real wholehearted piece here that I love that you're sharing this, Terry, because it's this reflective piece of saying, I too, as a mother in law, as a grandparent, am doing this for the first time. And I don't know how to do it either.
Nope.
And now you're bringing in not just my expectations, desires, and wishes, and my son's, and then his wife's and their marriage dynamic together, which we will never know the inside of someone's marriage. I
Yeah.
always remind people of that.
Yeah.
We never know the inside of that, and we don't know what happens behind closed doors. And so we have to give those positive, generous interpretations, especially to our daughters-in-law. And I think
Hmm.
there's this balance to be had here where I love that you really emphasize saying, prioritize your chosen family.
Hmm.
You have to look after the emotions in the home first. I'm okay. My love for you is not going anywhere.
Right.
That's the first piece. But I also know that our caregivers, our therapists of the world, I know this will be a struggle for myself, is also to kind of wave the flag and say, I have a need. And it's
Hmm.
hard.
Hmm.
Just thinking who I am, it's hard to insert my needs. And so there's this balance of putting the offers out there. It's never personal when they say no or it doesn't
Hmm.
work. It's kind of the like, I'm going to knock at your door. I'm not going to be intrusive and show up at your door, but
Right.
I'm going to call and say, hey, can I be part of this? Can I come and join this? Can we create this ritual? Because there is this just this natural dynamic where, and I really do want people to accept this because it's not personal, where girls, women turn to their mothers.
Hmm.
That's this bond that's there. And that then when they're married, then their husbands kind of just follow with that.
Right.
Not because they don't want you, Terry, to be part of that.
Yeah.
It's because that's the dynamic that exists there between you. So it's
Yeah.
almost this like test for grandparents to say, pick up the phone. Hi, hey, would love to be part of this. Is there
Hmm.
this next time? And I think sometimes for us caregivers, it can feel uncomfortable to do that.
Yeah, I think that, it's funny. I've seen different in my therapy practice. I've seen different ways of dealing with this that I think is interesting. I had one client who, even though her kids were grown, and people are getting engaged now, not married, but just keeping the family together. What she wanted, what mattered to her, was to travel together once a year around her birthday. and that she and her husband would rent a place, and she really, that's what matters to her. And it's almost like, she talks to everyone all along the way, but some people being like, here's my stake in the ground, right? Somebody being like, I would like it to be, I would like to spend Thanksgiving with you guys, or whatever it is. Like, again, having to, if you have difficulty with boundaries, it is very challenging to negotiate for your needs, but you're exactly right. And I know that there's this 5-step process that you walk us through in the book that will help people understand what is the next right action, what is the next right action. So let's talk a little bit about sort of navigating the expectations, the boundaries, right? What they want. I had a client who, this was a true story, and I think I wrote about it in one of my books because it was so mind blowing, that her husband's mother, it was like a big family. He had 5 brothers and sisters, that every Christmas they all flew back to wherever the parents lived to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, even though my client had children with this guy. Like, so she never spent Christmas. Santa only went to Nana's house. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
our work together, she resented it so much, wanted to be in her own home with her kids, like wanted to be like, why can't you be like normal, like other families, and we'll meet in 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks after Christmas or whatever it is. And when she finally stepped up, and she did, this was like, I mean, people were so pissed. The mother-in-law was really ratcheting it up, like, wow. And yet they did it, and the new normal came. It came through, there was rupture and then
Mm,
repair. And then
yes.
there was a new normal. And she stopped being so resentful because she didn't feel so controlled. She didn't want to center
Yes.
his family of origin and her for her entire life. And I don't blame her.
Of course. And in that piece right there, it is this discomfort and tension that you and your partner have to be willing to enter into together as a team, not as adversaries. Because when you go against each other and you see each other as the problem, that is even harder. And you want to go together as that united front to the family and say, this is not about you. This is what we want. And I know you're upset. And I want to reassure you that we can't wait to see you at this other time.
Yep.
But Terri, what happens in these unhealthy family systems is that the entire relationship is hinged on that one event and on everybody following suit. It's almost the way I've often conceptualized it. It's like the matriarch, the grandmother. She sits at the head of the table, and everybody around the table knows not to bring up that conversation about so and so. They're not going to talk about the drunk uncle. The kids don't put their elbows on the table, but we all know it all trickles down,
Yep.
and that family system can end up impacting everybody in it because
Right.
then the siblings have conflict, then everybody gives up their wishes and needs. And then this is really the piece in this book, because then what happens is so many people end up feeling like they're the bad guy. So many daughters-in-law, let me clarify.
Yep.
They end up being the scapegoat. Well,
Yep.
it's your wife who wants this, so she's the bad one. And there's such this nuanced way that partners can communicate this as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I walk people through how you're actually going to set boundaries. And one piece in there is when you go to mom and you say, well, Terri doesn't want to come for Christmas this year, so we're not going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, you have split, you and your partner.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, we're making a different decision this year. We
Yep.
can't wait to see you in the future. This is what we want. And we're that united front, and we're not going to split. And we won't let you split us either.
Yep. That's so crucial. And it is such a rookie mistake to do it, right? Because it's like, especially
I
if it's
know. An
new.
honest one,
Yes.
right? It's happened so much for young couples
Yep.
in those first moments of setting boundaries. Well, mom, Sarah's breastfeeding, so that's why you can't feed
Yep.
baby.
Yep. And now Sarah's on the hot seat, and she's the one
Oh,
who's
yeah.
bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in the book, you cover different types of mother-in-laws. Can we go over some of those?
Yes, absolutely. Did you recognize any in your practice?
I mean, all of them at different points, at different times. So,
I'll share the two that often stand out the most.
okay.
And so the one that really resonates, and it's interesting because we talk about a lot of this kind of victim mentality or not taking accountability for your own life. So I think about the victim mother-in-law type.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the internalizer category. There's two in each category. So the
Yep.
internalizer category experiences and makes everything about themselves. That's that kind of like, I'm going inwards to me. It's all about me. And the
Mm-hmm.
victim mother-in-law type feels helpless in her life. Everything
Mm-hmm.
happens to her.
Yep.
And in the book, I described this one couple where his dad had left the family when he was a young boy. And he just felt like it was all of his fault. He felt like he had to rescue his mom constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when he had his own family, then he was pulled between, do I look after my family or do I keep rescuing my mom?
Right.
And for couples and for daughters-in-law, I think what's really important here is that you do not want to step into that rescuer role
Right.
because it just keeps feeding that. And you know that with people who have porous boundaries, we then lose
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. We grow resentful and angry, and it shows up in our marriages.
Yep.
And then I think of in the externalizer category. So the externalizers really focus outward
Yeah.
and they use a lot of criticism and control.
Yep.
And I think of the blamer mother-in-law type who scapegoats the daughter-in-law.
Yep.
And she says, we never had these problems
Yeah.
before she joined the family.
Yep.
And oh my word, Terry, one of the most powerful things I say to people is I say, this family system existed before you joined. This is
Mm-hmm.
not because of you.
Right.
You are naming a pattern that has been playing out for a long time.
The intervention, though, like what this book and why I'm so excited that it's now in the world. You guys, the book is You, Your Husband, and His Mother Create a Healthy Relationship with Your Mother-in-Law and Your Spouse in 5 Simple Steps by Dr. Tracy. Um, is that I'm trying to think of I don't think I've had one client in almost 30 years who hasn't had some conflict with their mother-in-law. Do you remember when you first told me you were writing it and I was like, oh my God, I remember, I think we're going back and forth on Instagram. I was like, I'm so excited because there's such a need and there's a lot of shame that also
Oh,
goes
yeah.
along with this, right? If you are high functioning, my crew is a very high functioning codependent crew, people pleasers, high achievers, all that stuff,
Mm.
that we want our mother-in-law to like and love us, to think we're great, to think we're doing great. And so there was so much self-abandonment that I would see that like you're saying, you're between they were set between a rock and a hard place of either they got the mother-in-law's approval by doing what she wanted, but then they were super resentful, like my client spending Christmas in Wichita or wherever the hell
Oh,
she was going that
gosh.
she didn't want to go, or you set the boundary and the mother-in-law just vilified the crap out of you and then you're the villain and you feel terrible. But actually with my clients, a lot of them couldn't even get to that point. That was what they were coming into therapy for. A lot of them is to work on being able to set the boundaries. So I feel like this book is perfect if you are thinking about getting married, just married. Like you can start right
About to
now in
have
a
a
young
baby.
relationship, right? About to have a baby.
Hmm. Yes.
Exactly. So who else is
Yes.
this book for? Tell us.
Oh my goodness. I mean, many people come to me having said, we tried and tried and tried, and we are at no contact. And I know that when people
Mm,
go no contact, it is the last straw that you didn't want to get there.
no.
And so this book is helpful for you and your partner because maybe you might go low contact one day, but really to solidify and finish processing what happened and then
Mm,
also to help you move through those wounds.
yeah.
I I really do think there is this that there's so much of us that shows up in this. And this is why when I talk about the styles of daughters-in-law, where the good girl daughter-in-law shows up because she
Mm,
does abandon herself and she
yep.
pleases. And how normal that is to want the man that you love, the person you love, to have their parent care for you in such a way.
Yep.
And then we have to look at what we bring to the table. So people, especially if you do feel like you have a great relationship with your mother-in-law, I think this is amazing. I hear so many great stories, and I love those moments where I'm just like cheering the relationship on from all angles of it.
Right.
And this book is for you because it's going to help you stay in that spot. It's going to help protect you. But oh my goodness, if you're in the thick of it, if you're about to get married, if you know someone having a baby, you just slip this one. And I'm also saying to people, if your husband is not on board, put it on the coffee table and have it as a conversation starter, because the best thing you can say to your partner is, I want us to all have a good relationship. This is not a book where we're lighting the torch and going to knock down your mother-in-law's door. We're saying, let's build together, because that's what's important.
What is so powerful about this is that I feel like you put these strategies and made it accessible, because I really do feel like women don't know what to do in particular. And I know I'm always looking at it from the female lens, because that's the lens that I look at,
Yes.
life through, but also my work is very female centric.
Your work. Yes.
That there's something that you can do, even if you're not, if you're, like you said, even if you and your partner are not on the same page, there's something very self-reflective in this book where we get to look and go, okay, so it can't all, it isn't all anyone else, right? It's a dynamic. It's a relational problem, just like any other relational problem, which means it requires participation from all the players. But I love the idea of, if you're in a situation right now, listener, if you're watching this on YouTube and you feel like you're in a hopeless spot with your mother-in-law, or you don't like them, or you don't, whatever the thing is, if you read this book for yourself, right? Because really, Trace, what are we doing? This is creating your own peace, right? This is about creating our own peace and then being able to sort of bring that peace outward.
The part I love about this book is that you walk away with this sense of agency, power, and control. Not control in a gross way, but in the sense of, I get to decide how I show up.
Yes.
I don't want to be the victim or the villain. I want a seat at the table here.
Right.
And I even think of step 4, which is limits and boundaries. The L stands for limits and boundaries. And you're going to also learn that the boundary is not about the thing. I think in that chapter, I talk about this client who didn't want to go to every Sunday dinner or every Sunday espresso and biscotti at her in-laws' place, because it didn't work in her life at that point. And it wasn't about not going there. It was about her autonomy. It was about the core need inside of that. So, oftentimes we go to our partner saying, you need to set a boundary with your mom, and we don't understand what that's actually about. But then you're going to learn how to go inside and identify what this really is for you. And then on top of it, communicate it in a way that your partner will understand it. And that, there's so much agency in there.
Which is really the thing that's missing when you're feeling kind of victimized, or you're feeling like it's happening to you as a daughter-in-law. There's something so beautiful about that. Well, I'm super pumped for this book, Trace. Congratulations on it. You guys, it's called You, Your Husband, and His Mother Create a Healthy Relationship with Your Mother-in-Law and Your Spouse in 5 Simple Steps. You can get it everywhere. It came out exactly 2 days ago. You can get it everywhere fine books are sold. But Trace, tell us where else people can find you and follow you, and Insta, which is where I think I found you, was Instagram.
Yes,
Tell us all
that's
the
where we
things.
connected. Oh my goodness, how many years ago now? I'm
Many.
Dr. Tracy D on social. So just come over, say hello, let me know what stood out for you, and then grab the resources on my website, drtracyd.com. Terri, thank you so much. I just adore connecting with you. It's so meaningful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.